Welcome to the daily dose of Be the Cause of Life on Purpose. I was sorry to miss you all yesterday, but I happened to live here in the Pacific Northwest where we had this crazy windstorm and snowstorm. Pretty unusual when you live on an island where the water's 52 degrees all the time, to all of a sudden have a snowstorm that's blowing sideways. And needless to say, many of us lost power for the day. And the winter wonderland that brought us into some really cold temperatures, although not nearly as much as the rest of the US. So anyway, here I am today, and today we are examining Be the Cause of Vitality. I thought it was kind of an auspicious word to select today because, of course, we're in the Lunar New Year, so Happy New Year to all of my colleagues that are in Asia. It's the celebration of the Year of the Wild Pig, which, as I understand, is all about breaking through fear. And to me, what happens on the other side of breaking through fear is vitality. It also happens to be one of the words that's a high value for me. And as a result, it becomes a big part of how I decide what I give my attention to and the people that I hang out with and the adventures that I take myself on, including the ones that are deeply quiet and personal and internal. And what I realize is that vitality is directly related to how well I find myself centered and grounded in my life, the place of deep, unconditional self-love and self-acceptance. And maybe that's not a way you'd connected vitality before, and yet rather than it being something that I'm striving for, I realize that when I am standing in a place of unconditional self-love, I have a bottomless well. I think it's called artesian in those who are in the water business, that it's a well that is self-replenishing. And to me, my vitality is always accessible when I slow down enough to access the place in me, inside of me, in my heart, in my soul, if you will, in my spirit, that is completely accepting of who I am in this moment and in the next moment and in the next moment. And in some ways, this Year of the Pig is an opportunity for me to be in a practice of remembering that, maybe some of you know this man, Zig Ziglar. Excuse me. Zig Ziglar is a wonderful sales coach and leader and speaker and writer. And he has an acronym for the term fear, which is false. The F is false. E is evidence. A is appearing, and R is real. False evidence appearing real. And that can sound really great when you're standing in fear, and we can be very cynical about the fact that, well, that's a fine thing for you to say. You're accomplished and making your way in the world in a very positive way. And yet, I think there is something very useful for us to remember, that we do create our experience over and over and over again. So if I'm having an experience of fear, isn't it at least worth asking the question, is this false evidence? And if it's not false evidence, what about it is true? And what about that is actually in my control? I really worried a lot last evening and the evening before about people around the world and in our country right now with our winter season who are homeless. And when the temperature drops so dramatically from what they're used to being in, where do they go and how are they supported? And I realized that is not false evidence appearing real. That fear that they experience about how would they stay alive is real, like in a war zone, like if you're struggling with addiction, and all kinds of ways in which fear is real. And yet, even in those cases, when we allow ourselves to remember, I'm still alive, I still have resource and capability, and I have a moment when I can be creative, when I can imagine when I'm not in this circumstance or context. And simply asking ourselves the question, this is something that we know very much from the neuroscience, the neurochemistry research about why coaching works, that when we simply ask ourselves the question, what else is possible? What's true about this? What do I want? We are activating all the necessary processes in our being to create something different. And that difference might be in the next breath, I'm going to put another set of gloves on, or in the next breath, I'm going to remember what I love about myself, or in the next breath, I'm going to call a friend and have a conversation that brings some joy into my heart, or in the next breath, I'm going to make a coffee date to meet with someone who I maybe hurt their feelings or disappointed them in some way, and I'll have a conversation about forgiveness and restore what we love about each other. All of these small steps that we take are that moment of self-acceptance and self-trust without condition, knowing we are magnificent in the fact that we even are alive and exist, and that moment is what gives us access to our vitality. So that's my daily dose of inspiration and a practice to be in the question, false evidence appearing real, or is it real, and what do I want and what will I choose? And to be actively engaged in that is the process of accessing the artesian well of vitality. That's all for today. Until tomorrow, Janet Harvey signing off. Be the cause of vitality today and be the cause of your life on purpose.